Good evening, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about communication and especially about non-verbal communication and the importance of non-verbal communication in our day-to-day lives. So take a look at the screen. Non-verbal communication. According to experts, 80% of our communication is non-verbals, which is quite surprising because most of the times here we are thinking that verbal communication is the most important facet of communication. Not so. Looks like non-verbal communication plays a huge part in our communication. Now, this screen shows you 4 different emotions: happiness, sadness, anger, and fear. Now, these expressions are universal for all human beings across the globe. So, do we have a different expression for happiness in different countries? Not really. So, can we say the Russians emote happiness differently than the Chinese? No, they don't. It's the same expression, though the Chinese are a little difficult to read. So, you have to be an expert on nonverbals to be able to read them. They're more inscrutable. Okay. Now, this is a set of 9 emojis. And this is an assignment for you. I want you to take a quick picture of this slide. I'm sure all of you have phones with cameras. And I want you to write down what emotion these emojis are exhibiting according to you. Okay. So because how you interpret the emotions is also very, very important. So I want you to write this down, and we'll kind of do a show and tell tomorrow when we meet again. All right. So let's go on to the next nonverbals. Eye gaze. Now, some people will say that the eyes are the window to a person's soul. Okay? Now, especially during this pandemic when we are all wearing masks, it's very difficult to figure out whether you are happy to see someone on the road, right? But with our eyes, we're able to show our happiness and our excitement because we can even smile using our eyes, or even show anger or sadness or happiness. Okay, depending upon what we're feeling at that moment. So eyes are very, very, or the eye gaze is very, very important, and how you use your eyes is also very, very important. Also, when we talk about eye gaze, there are 2 things that come into play, very important. That is looking versus staring. Now, looking is important because if I'm speaking with you, I would expect that you'd be looking at me if it was not in this kind of a format. If it was a one-on-one training or actual physical classroom, I would expect that my students are looking at me. That means they're paying attention. Now, there comes another facet which is called staring. Now, staring is probably not such a good idea because when you stare, you make the person in front of you uncomfortable. Now, how do you know that the person is uncomfortable? Because the person starts exhibiting discomfort. Okay, the way they are sitting or moving, you know that this person is uncomfortable. How do you know? Because you know about nonverbals, and you probably realize that, okay, I'm probably looking and I need to look away to make sure that the other person is comfortable, because communication is all about making the other person comfortable. Okay. Then the next one is gestures. So we show many things by using gestures. Okay, or we communicate many things by using gestures. You would say something like, if you agree, it's a thumbs up. If you disagree, it's a thumbs down. If you won something, you say victory. Okay, if you want somebody to call you and you can't really talk to them, you will say, call me. All right. And if you're happy about something, then you say yes. And this is the gesture that you use. When you are really overwhelmed, you say, oh my God, what am I going to do? And the person, anybody looking at you really understands that, okay, this person is probably overwhelmed. So we use so many of these gestures wherein we are exhibiting our emotions and our feelings. Okay, so far so good. All right. This could be another fun exercise wherein you try and figure out what exactly is this girl trying to say by using all these gestures. So that could also be another little activity that you would like to do. Okay, which would be a fun activity. All right. Then comes the next nonverbal, that is posture. Now, posture is very important because depending on your posture, the person who is viewing you will make up their mind about you, whether this person is a confident person. So if you can see the first picture, it's slightly slouched and the head forward, which is a not good posture, which shows lack of confidence, which shows a person who is not really out there, who's not going to be really doing anything, because the posture itself shows negativity. The posture in the middle is something which exudes positiveness, exudes confidence, And such a person will probably be conceived well from a perspective of probably landing a job. Suppose you get into an interview and you have the posture, the first posture, probably in the eyes of the interviewer, you're probably not such a great candidate, okay, because you don't have the confidence. All right, so you are judged by the way you look, at least the first few seconds when you get into an interview room, or you get into, when you want to make a good impression on people, how you hold yourself and how you hold your body says a lot about you. So posture is very, very important. Now let's go to the next one, haptics. Anybody's come across this term haptics, and do you know what it means? So haptics is derived from a Greek word which is haptikos, meaning able to come in contact with, or in layman's term, a sense of touch, and how important it is for us. Now, touch is at the core of personal experience. So we when we are born and when we are touched by our parents and taken care by our parents, that's why we grow up to be the kind of people who are able to manage in society, who know how to behave in society. If we were not taken care of in the way we were, we probably would be on the fringes of society and not really belonging to society. All right. Now, there is a very interesting experiment that was carried out by this particular gentleman called Harry Harlow. It's called the monkey study. Right now, so we'll leave that aside for a bit. And let's talk about how are monkeys similar to us. Can anybody tell me how they're similar to us? In what way? Any one of you? Okay. So monkeys, like us, live in groups. Yes, they move around in groups and they take care of one another. All right, just like the way we do. So what did Mr. Harry Harlow do? He took one of the baby monkeys away from its mother, and he brought it to its lab. And he raised, the little baby monkey was raised by a wire mother. So what's a wire mother? A wire mother is a machine that would come and feed the baby monkey whenever the baby monkey was hungry. So for all practical purposes, the baby monkey was taken care of. He was in a sterile environment. He was being fed whenever required. And he was safe. Safer than he would be in the forest. Okay. Now, after a while, what did this gentleman do? He took this baby monkey and he put it back again in the forest. How do you think this baby monkey reacted in the forest? What was his reaction, do you think, with the other monkeys? Any thoughts on this? How do you think this baby monkey reacted? Now, this baby monkey showed severe deficit in social behavior. Could not get along with other monkeys, try to bite the other monkeys, or try to bare its teeth. Why? Because he did not know how to behave in society, because he was not brought up by his mother, whom he would watch and imitate behavior. So there was a severe deficit in social behavior. That's why when you are brought up in a good and loving environment, you grow up to be a good human being, a positive part of society. When you are not, then you have these people who live in fringes of society. So that's why haptics is very, very important, and how to use touch in a good way and how not to use touch is also very, very important. Okay, all right. The next is paralinguistics. So any idea what is paralinguistics? Any one of you? Would you like to take a guess? No answer is wrong. All right. So linguistics, what do you think is linguistics? I'm sure you know that, yes. Linguistics means something to do with language, right? Paralinguistics, any idea? Paralinguistics means which goes beyond language. For instance, your tone, intonation, pitch, how you use the volume of your voice. Now, I'm sure all of you have gone to libraries and hospitals. In the olden days, there used to be a very pretty picture of a nurse in a white uniform with a finger on her lip, wherever, if you go to a dispensary, telling you that this is a place where people are treated for illnesses and you need to be quiet so as not to disturb them. If you go into the library, though there are no blatant pictures kept on the walls, but you know that this is a place where you have to be quiet and speak in a low tone, because people have come here to study and to read and you cannot disturb them. Like in a party, if you ask people to be quiet, they'll think, what's wrong with you? A party is a place where you have to enjoy, and people yell and shout, and they, and they probably sometimes even scream. Yes, because they want to show how excited and, how much fun they are having. So to be able to understand how to use your voice and when to use a voice and how to change the tone and pitch of your voice is also a very important facet of nonverbal communication. Now, many a times, if you hear a person, maybe it's a celebrity or probably a political leader or even one of your teachers who speaks in a very monotonous tone, it becomes difficult to listen to that person for a long period of time. But if that person uses, pitch, inflection in their voice, it becomes easy and interesting to listen to such a person. Yes, so I'm sure you can think back and try and figure out which people you were happy listening to and which people you were not really happy listening to. Okay, and in the next class we will do a little more of nonverbal communication. Thank you.